Hello everyone, it's George from Ireland. Well, welcome back to my channel. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, announced just a few days ago that Israel plans to take control over Gaza City, the city which gives its name to the Gaza Strip. And he says that will end the war. But there's no end in sight. It's been going on for 22 months. Well, 22 and a half. My goodness. Anyway, 60,000 Palestinian civilians murdered, some Hamas fighters killed, but the onus is on Israel to prove that they really are Hamas fighters. So I'm going to have to assume that they're civilians until proven otherwise. Even that journalist whom they said was in Hamas, goodness, that very prominent journalist, Anas al Sharif, an honorable man, a father, a husband, popular guy, no threat to anyone, and he was murdered for telling the truth, for exposing Israel's endless atrocities against defenseless Palestinian civilians, particularly children. So it's really sickening. Now, countries which have been fairly friendly towards Israel, the United Kingdom and France, and they've said that there is a high chance this will violate international humanitarian law. Totally unsurprising, as Israel's been doing it at an enormous scale for decades, but that's simply intensified in this in this war. And so Israel's massacres in Gaza are so prolific and so large scale that actually distracts attention from the ongoing ethnic cleansing against Palestinians in the West Bank. Palestinian civilians murdered there, certainly on a weekly basis, almost daily basis, with impunity. And no one brought to justice by it, but for this, but illegal immigrants from Israel doing that. The Israeli police and army stand by at best if they don't actually carry out the crimes themselves. So it is infuriating that there's so much evil, there's so much cruelty in the world. And no, I know that not all Israelis are bad, and there are some truly valiant Israelis who will raise their voices for human rights, despite being denounced, being called traitors or capos or self-hating, or all this kind of nonsense, all these illogical arguments, attempts to intimidate them. They've been arrested, they've been beaten up, they face death threats, and so on. So that's the thing about human rights, is there for humans, all humans, regardless of ethnicity, religion, nationality, where they live in the world, and so on. All right. So many other countries which were fairly friendly towards Israel, like Slovenia, Greece, and Denmark, rightly said that this will not return the hostages and is actually going to risk even more lives. If they want the hostages returned, obviously, Israel's got thousands of Palestinians whom it holds as hostages to release some of them. 2 for 1, 10 for 1, 100 for 1, or whatever. And the Israelis know they could easily kidnap more people later on. Sometimes they've released people only to deliberately murder them later on. I mean, targeting that individual. So it's not often I would approve of the foreign policy of the People's Republic of China, itself a genocidal regime against the Uyghurs. But the devil can speak true. And they said this is collective punishment of the people of Gaza, which is impermissible. Now, likewise, the Russian regime is the most two-faced, fork-tongued in the world. They're one of the few ones that will claim that up is down. But here, I'm afraid I have to accord them some respect. Occasionally, they tell the truth, and they said this be a reckless intensification of hostilities, which is definitely true. So the United Nations Assistant Secretary General Miroslav Jenca, I hope I pronounced it correctly, said it will likely trigger another calamity in Gaza. They'll further force displacement, killings, and destruction. So the Israelis can't say they haven't been warned. It's a bit like the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation when they decided they and some American contractors were going to organize a distribution of humanitarian aid. They were told it'd be a catastrophe, and it has been. Over 1,000 people shot dead just for trying to get food. Wow, it's sickening. These massacres every single day, and it's not anti-Semitic to call out the crimes of the IDF and the Netanyahu cabinet. Wow, anti-Semitism is rebarbative. Racialism of any kind is repugnant. Let there be no racial prejudice, religious prejudice. Nobody should be mistreated on the basis of his faith, nationality, citizenship, ethnicity, skin color, and so forth. That ought to go without saying. I'm afraid it doesn't go without saying, especially when we have overt racists in the Netanyahu cabinet. and they're Palestinians who are like that as well. And it's true that Judeo-phobic tropes were circulated in various countries of the Arab world, maybe to this day. I saw such a pamphlet in Cairo, Egypt, recently in 2021. Goodness. So, but obviously his crimes simply exacerbate anti-Semitism. That's grist to the mill. Okay, anti-Semitism is never permissible, but you could at least try to improve the situation and not aggravate it. Likewise, what Hamas does, that actually increases anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab prejudice, Islamophobia, and likewise. Um, anyway, so horrifically, but unsurprisingly, the United States government has spoken up for what the IDF is doing and saying the United States is striving to get the hostages free. Okay, so the United Nations Humanitarian Office as a spokesman, Ramesh Rajasingham, who said it's starvation, pure and simple, and that is true. Israel cutting off food. Now there have been some humanitarian flights, not by the Israelis, of course, by the Jordanians, the Emiratis. There's talk of the Royal Air Force doing. I don't know if that, but it's nowhere near enough. And these land sometimes places are inaccessible. Sometimes the things that are thrown out actually hit people and kill them. And there's a fight for survival, and strong young men are most likely to get them. I put myself in that position, and obviously you want to feed children, the elderly, the weak, but say me first. I'm driven insane with hunger. Look after my loved ones, even if they get food to them rather than those who need it even more. And it brings out the beast in people. Wow. So it's just appalling, the daily scenes of gratuitous cruelty that Israel is inflicting on these poor people in Gaza. It's horrific, it's heartbreaking, and words fail me to talk about this frank evil. Netanyahu, how does he live with himself? How does he sleep at night? He is conscienceless. There have been other Middle Eastern tyrants. He's a bit like Saddam Hussein. you know, the bare-faced lies and the dehumanization of other people. He doesn't regard the Palestinians as human beings at all. Bill Clinton said this over 30 years ago. Bill Clinton, the most viciously anti-Palestinian president the United States has ever had. And so it goes on. So the IDF says there are two remaining Hamas strongholds. Really? Well, I mean, I'm sure you could get them with missiles. You bomb things every day. So Netanyahu says he's going to increase humanitarian aid. Said he wants to Hamas as a looted aid trucks. Well, maybe true, but I mean everybody wants food. If these are fit young men and they've got arms. They don't want to starve. They obviously want to keep the Israeli hostages alive who've got some value. But everyone is malnourished, and that includes the Israeli hostages. At least they're not allowed to move, not losing calories. Of course, not nice to be locked up in a dungeon for almost 2 years. So it's thought there are 20 hostages still alive. Um, anyway, and their barefaced lies claiming the photos of Palestinian children are fake. Well, we know it's not fake. And we know that from aid workers, that's definitely not fake. They have died. I suppose all those children dying are fake, right? They're just making it up. So over 217 people have died of starvation. So 61,000 people murdered by the IDF. That's direct result. Obviously, those who are indirectly killed from lack of medicine or whatever, the fact that the doctors and nurses who treat them have been murdered and so on. So wow, how revolting can the IDF be? And I know not all IDF soldiers are bad, and they're good people who do evil things, just like evil people who do good things. And even the former Prime Minister of Israel has denounced this. So Ehud Barak has spoken about it. Olmert has spoken out against it. And Ehud Barak was a general in the army. You can't say he's a peacenik. Olmert, he started that war against Lebanon in 2006. So he's not exactly a wimp, but even they are revolted by the enormous scale and the sickening severity of Netanyahu's barbarous crimes against humanity. Wow, wow. Storing up just an ocean of odium against Israel. Okay. And I want Israel to exist. I want Israel to be safe and Palestine to be safe. And I know it's glib to say that. It's no easy matter to achieve it. Well, what can we do? You know, work for peace. I know it sounds pathetic and corny. What else can I do? Anyway, I remind myself I'm so lucky to live in peace and safety where there's so much food to throw away. And I'm very proud the Republic of Ireland have taken some sick Palestinian children for healthcare. We should have given visas to Palestinian children to come to play Gaelic games and stay in safety. And the United Kingdom, which is some indirect responsibility, should take some Palestinian refugees. So should Germany, so should Austria, many other countries. And obviously, I'm appalled but not surprised the Gulf Arab countries haven't stepped up. Okay, thanks for watching my channel. Goodbye.